My name is Christine, and this is Yin Yoga for Emotional Resilience. I am a Cancer. So, if you know anything about the zodiac signs, you know that as a Cancer, I can be pretty sensitive and pretty emotional. And it's through all of that movement of emotion in my own life that I came to yoga and meditation and mindset work to harness a power in that instead of always feeling like I was at the whimsy of it and that it was affecting my life and making things harder than maybe they really needed to be. There are things that happen in life that throw us off our game, that completely throw us off our game. So, whether your emotions are as turbulent as mine, if you manage anxiety, if you're very sensitive or reactive, or if you tend to be pretty steady and even keeled, even those of us that are pretty steady can feel that there are things that happen in life that can throw us way off our game. Right? It doesn't only happen to those who are sensitive. And so it becomes important for us to practice the art of that emotional resilience. How can we feel our feelings and yet not have them completely ruin us and knock us down entirely? So, in today's yoga practice, we're going to be doing some slow held yin stretches. Everything that we experience emotionally and just all of the different life experiences that we have throughout our entire lives do get carried in the body in some way, shape, or form. Our bodies become this map of everything that we've ever been through, including the joy and the trauma. The hips are an area of the body that are known for carrying so much emotion. This is in part because of anatomically where the hips are. It's the hinge point between lower body and upper body. And it is also the house of our first two chakras, so the Muladhara chakra and the Svadhisthana chakra. So that means root chakra and sacral chakra. I almost said solar plexus. It's not solar plexus. So those first two chakras can house a lot of emotion, and it's our sense of groundedness. It's our sense of feeling and emotion and desire and passion. And the hips can therefore hold a lot of that emotion. So we will be doing some hip stretches to get into that part of the body as we then practice the art of sitting with discomfort, the art of being with ourselves. Then we'll go into a heart opener at the end so that we can actually surrender to whatever is happening, even when it appears on the outside that what is happening is not positive. If we allow ourselves a full surrender and an acceptance to what is, releasing a resistance to what is when we start to feel that we can actually soften around it all and flow with it as opposed to flowing against it. We are going to begin today with a Kapalabhati breath, which, if you know this breath, this is a fire breath. If you know it, you may be more familiar with doing it in practices that are more up tempo than yin yoga. Yin yoga is these slow, long held stretches. Kapalabhati is a fire inducing breath, but it's also a breath that is cleansing. It's a breath that helps us to clear the channels of energy within. And Kapalabhati can be done in different ways. And today we're going to be doing it in a way that's actually a bit slower in pace. We're going to do 3 rounds of breath, 10 breaths each. Now, Kapalabhati is where, you can sit yourself up on a prop here. For today, by the way, you're going to need a bolster, maybe a folded up blanket, and a block. And you can sit yourself up so that you can really get this length and height going on in your spine. And the Kapalabhati breath comes from the navel. It comes from this pulling in, sort of in a rapid and very actionable fashion where we snap the belly in, and that's what helps us to exhale very briefly. So it's like out of the nose, right? We do a, right, and just push the breath out. And then by doing that, we create a vacuum inside where now, without doing anything, a breath will come in, right? So we push the air out, and then naturally a breath comes in. In Kapalabhati, in more active practices, we might do that in a very fast rhythmic fashion where it looks and sounds a little bit like, right? Today, what we're going to do is as we push the air out, we're then just going to take that moment of pause to feel the air come in before we do it again. At the end of 10 repetitions, we'll take a deep breath in, filling the lungs, drop the chin down while keeping the back of the neck long, and then have a breath retention here for a moment, just to the place where we get a little bit uncomfortable. And then we will exhale long and slow, letting the head lift back up. So you might only by the third round really feel like you've got a handle on this. Feel free to rewind and do it all over again if you need to. We're looking for 3 rounds. I'll guide that first one a lot, the second one a little less, and then the third one I'll just do with you. All right, so sitting here nice and tall, take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, pull the belly in and let a new inhale in 10 times. Big breath in. Hold the breath in, drop your chin, keep the back of the neck long. And then letting the breath out very long and slow. Letting the head lift back up. Got it? Good. Let's do it twice more. Inhale deep. Exhale 10 times. Big breath in. Drop chin and hold. Long, smooth exhale. One last time. Good. Enjoy a nice full cycle of breath now. Exhaling out of the mouth. Good. And we'll begin moving. So coming onto your hands and knees, I'm going to invite you to keep your bolster, or maybe just a nice firm pillow for today, near the top of your mat. And we'll come into hands and knees for some cat-cows, just as we warm up our spine a bit. Inhale and lift your head, lift your tailbone. Exhale and round. And then a couple more times, and just kind of let your body wake itself up, getting into your body, connecting your breath and your movement. And you may notice that the body does carry a lot of different sensations. And sometimes it's purely anatomical. There could be an injury, it could be the way that you hold your body, repetitive movements and patterns. And sometimes it's a little bit less obvious because perhaps there's some emotional echo happening within the body. Next time that you exhale, tuck your toes and bring yourself into a downward dog. And again, we're just using this to warm ourselves up a little bit. You might want to roll your shoulders around a few times and pedal at your heels. Don't worry so much about your form or your stance today. This is just a nice active moment to wake up, stretch out. And we'll take the right leg up into the air with the knee bent and just do some nice big knee circles here, moving from the hip joint. Let's see if you can explore the outer range of available movement here. And change directions. If you don't really feel like you're making a circle, maybe it's an oval or even a triangle, that's totally cool. And just know that that's
That's all part of what we might come to expect as we move the body. Good. We're going to work our way towards a pigeon pose. We're going to take that right knee up the length of the mat towards our right thumb. And you might want to take a moment just to back up your left knee a little bit more so you've got lots of space between the two legs. Now make sure your knee is essentially more to the right of your mat while your foot is essentially in front of your left hip. So your shin is now slicing on a diagonal here across your mat. You can untuck your back toes. I like to stay upright for a moment and then slowly start to come down. And come onto your elbows. Another option is to open the elbows, stack the hands, place your forehead on your hands. And we happen to have our cushion or bolster with us. You might even like to snuggle in. Just kind of getting yourself comfortable here while you get into your hip stretch. Whatever way that you find makes sense for you today, do take a moment to just let yourself settle right into it, like you're landing, like you're arriving right here. You might find that you would be more comfortable propping up your right hip a little bit. Just resist that temptation to roll to the right and put your hip down on the ground. We do want to be centered between the two legs. And allow your awareness to start turning inwards into your sensation, and in towards the emotional response of your body from being in this shape. Emotions are like water. They take the form that we give them, and they flow, they move. What this means is that emotions can take the meaning that we choose to give them, and that the best way to see an emotion move is to allow ourselves to feel it. Emotional resilience comes not from stopping emotions from happening, but instead from allowing ourselves to feel those emotions completely. The practice comes from finding ways to do that that feel safe for us. Because no matter how intense the emotion, there is a protective nature to hold us back from it. And yet, no matter how intense that emotion, it actually can do us no harm. What we do with it is where the harm can come. Settle into your hip. Feel everything here fully and completely. And practice the art of sitting with feeling, sitting with discomfort, without feeling the need to run away, to abandon, to make it stop. Give yourself 5 more breaths. Put a little emphasis on the exhale. And even slow down so much that you're stretching those 5 breaths out as though you really, really don't want to leave the pose. And without rushing, very slowly and intentionally start to come out of the posture. Start just by maybe moving your prop out of the way if you've got it underneath you and coming back up onto your hands. And once you're upright here, extending a little kindness to yourself as you start to push the hips back and slide that right knee back. And eventually making your way back into a downward facing dog pose. Where you can pedal at your heels again, get some circulation back into the back of that right knee. Maybe sway your hips a bit side to side. Every emotion that we feel comes to us in waves. And waves have these sort of peaks and valleys to them, right? They grow more and more and more intense. And yet eventually they come to a place where they then start to fall back down in intensity. And let's take our left leg up, knee bent, and doing some of those nice big hip circles again on the left side now. No real right or wrong with this. You may be shaking a bit. If there's a challenge in your upper body strength, that's okay. We're not here that long. We'll just build some strength along the way. Change the direction of the circles of your knee. Go around the other way now. Good. And we're ready for the other side. Let's take that left knee up the length of the mat towards the left thumb. Place the foot in front of the right hip and even back up your right knee now. Take a moment upright on your hands to make sure that you are centered between your two legs. Prop yourself up if you need to under that left hip. It might be more sustainable if you have just a little prop there so that you're not hanging in midair. And then slowly start to find your way down to whatever level is going to feel like a healthy dose of challenge for you. And a healthy dose of challenge means is that you have sensations, you might have emotions, but you can still also breathe and maybe even smile. Prop yourself up with a pillow if you like. Prop your head on your hands if you like. All sensation. Emotions are just a part of it, but even the sensations of our body, they come in waves. Even when we feel that a certain sensation is sustained, there is actually this sort of rising and falling within its intensity. And we only really get to experience that when we take that time to sit with it. When we resist that stress response, that fight or flight response of going, okay, this is uncomfortable, I'm going to get out of here. If we resist that and we just take a moment, take a few extra breaths, and pay attention, we begin to see that the sensation and the emotion has its peaks and its valleys, and it rises and falls. And go through waves of feeling like it's too much and then feeling like we can do this. Our emotional resilience comes from learning how to ride those waves. And allow ourselves to feel it when it's intense, and allow ourselves to look beyond the moment when it feels less intense, to find hope, to find positivity.
We take the moments in the valleys when the intensity has lowered to make plans, to take action, to reframe the situation into one that feels positive and hopeful and helpful. In the moments of the peaks, those rises in intensity, we just stop and we feel it. And when we feel it most, we breathe. Just breathe. Nothing else to do. And 5 more long breaths, like you were trying to stretch out the moment and actually stay here a little longer. So slowly, coming back up onto your hands. And here what we'll do to come out is just sit down on our left hip and take that right leg all the way around. You can extend both legs out in front of you and just give yourself a little rocking in and out of the legs, a little shaking. Just marveling at how quickly the sensations are already changing just by making a slight change in our shape and form and letting things flow again. And point and flex your feet. Good. All right, we'll come into Gomukasana for our next posture. So for this one, we have a couple of options. I'm going to show you the one sitting up, and if you have some trickiness in your knees that makes it hard for you to do this posture, I'm also going to show you a version to do lying on your back. We're going to start with our left leg on the bottom. So your left leg is bent, and you're actually going to bring your knee so that it's right in front of you. And now my heel is essentially beside my right bum. And then I'm going to cross the right leg on top. All right, so we're trying to close up the gap between the two legs. The feet are splayed out to the sides. Now, one option here might be that you need to prop up your hips a little bit, so don't hesitate to give yourself a little boost with a folded blanket or a towel, and this might make this feel a little bit more possible. We do want to feel anchored in our seat and not like we're too lopsided, and hopefully have more or less one knee right on top of the other. Now, I did say that if you are finding that this is just an impossible shape to create while seated, so if that's the truth, you come to lie on your back. And you're still crossing your right leg over your left, but here you'll be taking your knees into your chest and you can hold your knees, or you can slide your hands. You'll notice my left hand is going down my right leg, and my right hand is going down my left leg. And bring the knees in towards the chest, and maybe even just sort of open your feet out to the side a bit. And you should feel like you're getting that outer hip stretch on the right hip when you come here. And you can stay with this version. You might find it gentler on the knees. And if you're upright, you can start by just sitting upright, taking a moment to let your body land in the shape. And if you feel the invitation to go any deeper than this, you could be leaning back, right? Or deeper would be leaning forward, right? So remember that that's also an option. I don't want to forget to mention that. You can always lean back. You could be right here, breathing into your hips, or you could begin to lean forward. My hips are wonderfully complex. There are many muscles. There are many things going on. There's many possibilities in the way the hips that can move, and therefore many possibilities in ways that hips can get tight. So we have lots of different shapes to create that actually might seem a little bit similar, but they all kind of target a little bit differently in there. And the deeper that we get into that hip area, basically we're looking at the bum, right? When we talk about the hip, we're looking at the whole pelvic area. The deeper that we might go into ourselves and all of the both current and past experiences that have made their mark upon us. Some emotions are easier than others to sit with. One emotion that I think for almost all of us can be really hard to sit with is anger. And I think part of why that is, I think there's two reasons. One reason is that anger feels destructive. When we get really, really mad, we can easily feel like we could do harm, even if that harm comes from us just trying to protect ourselves, even if we're not necessarily on the offensive. There's something about anger that feels harmful, that feels destructive. And the second reason I think many of us have a hard time sitting with anger is because we don't really give ourselves permission. Society doesn't really give us permission to be angry. It's like anger is seen as irrational. Anger is seen as overreactionary. But anger is just as good for you as joy. There's information in anger. When we're mad, there's often a good reason for it, even if it's a very personal reason. Again, it's how we frame it and what we do with it that counts. Let ourselves feel it. You don't have to do anything. Just feel angry. Just feel angry. You're allowed. You're totally allowed. Good. Let's let out a big exhale out of the mouth. Good. And slowly come on up. Uncross your legs. If you're lying on your back, you can stay there because we're going to do the other side in just a moment. Whether you're on your back or you're sitting upright, feet are on the floor, knees bent up, and just a little rocking of the knees side to side. Good. If we're going to allow ourselves to feel all the feelings, to let them flow through us by having been felt completely right through to their end, then we have to let ourselves be angry too. Emotional resilience isn't picking and choosing which emotions we're going to let ourselves feel. It's saying that I have the full range and I'm going to let myself feel all of it. Good. We'll do the other side. So you can take your right knee and bend it. Place it right in front of you. Make sure you're sitting to the inside of your right heel. And then take your left leg, cross it over top. One knee stacked on top of the other.
If you're lying on your back, switch the cross of your legs. Make sure that you have your left leg now crossing over your right leg, and then gently start to bring the knees in and maybe even open the feet out to the sides. If you're upright, remember you can lean back or you can begin to lean forward. Use a little prop underneath you if you need it, just to make sure that you feel more or less even between the two sides. You're not tilting over to one side. Yoga is our practice ground. This rectangle here, my yoga mat, is the place where I can safely practice different qualities and attributes that I hope to cultivate elsewhere in my life too. As I sit by creating a sensation in my body, putting myself into a yin posture, I sit with that discomfort knowing that it's good for me. I'm stretching my muscles out, I'm working out tension, I'm letting energy flow. And yet it's intense, not always fun. I'm practicing now that same resiliency that I hope to experience when life throws me something that's not so comfortable, not so fun. We practice taking a few breaths, letting ourselves feel the feelings before we respond and take action. The more intense the emotion, probably the more time we need to give ourselves to let it move, so that we're not destructive, so that we don't take our feelings and turn them into actions that don't serve us or others. Remember to breathe, to watch the rising and falling of every moment of intensity of this moment, of sensation in your body, of emotional response. And soften into it. Let go of the holding. Let the body melt. Let out one more big exhale right out of your mouth. Good. And slowly, slowly, slowly sit up. And slowly, slowly, slowly uncross your legs. Take your time. Come back to a gentle windshield washer-like motion here. Windshield wiper. It's not the washer, it's the wiper. There you go. Good. And now that we've allowed ourselves to feel all of that, let's open up our hearts big and wide, turning whatever it is that we have into love and compassion and just all the goodness that we hope it can be for ourselves and others. Matsuyasana, supported fish pose. Bolster underneath your shoulder blades, and a block or a pillow to catch your head so that your head doesn't fall too far back. So we're going to come to lie down here. And I said this is under the shoulder blade. So what that means is my arms are going up over top, right? So it's not like here or with the bolster like under your upper back, under almost your neck. No, you want to be up enough that now your arms go up and over the top like so, right? So it's really lifting the back of the heart up. And then we've got a block here so that we can catch the head and not have it straining back. And then palms are open. You have a few options for your legs. You can keep your knees bent up. I'd like to open the feet a bit and let the knees knock in into a constructive rest pose. Or if you'd like to go Shavasana style, you can extend your legs, having them open almost as wide as your sticky mat here, toes flopping out to the sides. See what feels best for your lower back. You can play with the height of what's catching your head. If you need a little more support, don't hesitate to lift it up. We don't need to have the head falling back in a way that hurts the neck. What we're looking for here is an openness through the front of the heart, through the chest, the front of the shoulders. Our own sensitivity is what helps us become more compassionate, more accepting, understanding, and loving. The more that I can connect with my own feelings and how different things make me feel, the more that I can understand how someone else might be feeling. We all feel different things, but the point is we all feel something. Breathe into the space of your heart, letting it open wide now. You can choose to stay here for as long as you like. Until next time, the light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste. And thank you for practicing emotional resilience with me today.